Hi guys, so it's time for my reading wrap up for February. I'm sorry that I'm recording this at night with kind of bad lighting. I kind of had to do it after work this week, or it was just going to get later and later and later. And I'm kind of OCD about uploading wrap ups. I just kind of am. I'm not going to go into my whole OCD issue because we'd be here all night. But yeah, I wanted to get this done because, like I said, I really like wrap ups to go up sort of when they're supposed to be scheduled to go up. So that's why I'm recording it now at night. So yeah, so I've actually put all the books in completely the wrong order. So here we go. The first book that I read in February was The Marriage Bargain by Jennifer Probst. This is a book that has been on my radar for a really long time, but I didn't know got published in the UK with in an actual paperback format. I remember the US cover for this, and I had literally was just in the supermarket and it was there and I picked it up and I really enjoyed this one. It's very cute, it's very fluffy, and it's just a quick contemporary romance. I can't get my words out, you can tell I've been at work. Romance read. Definitely, if you like that sort of thing, worth picking up. It's very quick. This would be the book that normally I would probably pick up on my Kindle and wouldn't buy the paperback of, but because it was so cheap I thought why not. And it was really cute. It's about a young woman called Alexa. She's got her own business. It's not doing amazing, but it's doing okay. And her parents are struggling financially. They're going to lose their house. So she marries an old sort of childhood friend who's very sort of cold and detached, but is rich. So they basically make a business contract. She'll go to all his like society functions, and because it's like in his uncle's will or something that he has to stay married for a year to get this chunk of the company or whatever. So it's all for financial gain, but obviously it doesn't go to plan. Definitely a good read. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's just really sweet. I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 purely because it made me sort of smile and it was funny, which I really enjoyed. So definitely worth it if you like cute, fluffy, but funny romance. The next book that I read is a book that has been on my shelf for an insane amount of time, but I have not read, and that is A Bed to You by Sylvia Day. I think after reading 50 Shades and the whole sort of erotica genre exploding, pardon the pun, put me off it a little bit because I've read a couple more sort of like erotic novels and I've not really enjoyed them. I'm one of the people that liked 50 Shades. I'm not ashamed to say I enjoyed reading it. But have not really found anything else that's made me sort of love the genre as a whole. But I know this is a very popular one, and I just sort of been wary of picking it up, and I did really enjoy it. I can see why it's sort of compared to 50 Shades, but also why it's sort of different. It was really enjoyable. I think both characters are pretty effed up in this one. And I am enjoying to sort of delving more into sort of getting to know them and see where they go. But it's again a very sort of jealous, possessive, not abusive relationship, but you do wonder if it's actually healthy. And that's just in book 1. But I am definitely going to continue with the series. Like I say, I did enjoy it, but I wouldn't say I love it, but I could grow to love it if the next, like with the progression of the series, if you know what I mean. Like there's potential for me to really like the series. Because the first book in 50 Shades wasn't my favourite. I really liked it, but I read book 2 and book 3 and I preferred book 2 and book 3, if you know what I mean. So it could very well be the same with this. I could read the next book and absolutely love it, and then read the next one, and so on and so on. But I gave it 3 out of 5. Was toying with 3.5, but definitely think it's more of a 3. The next book that I read was actually on my Kindle, if I can pull it up. This was really quick. I read this in like the space of a day, and that's Accidentally in Love with the Biker by Terry Ann Stanley, which is you are not going to see in this absolutely horrific lighting. This is a What Happens in Vegas story. I haven't read any of the other books, but you don't have to. They're all sort of standalone novels, and this one was really cute. It's about a young woman who is in Vegas, and she's there for a romance convention, and she's actually a bookstore owner, but she wants to sort of write like erotic romance. She's helped her friend edit her story, and she's sort of had like an E.L. James success story. They're making the movie, etc., etc. But she actually practically wrote this novel for her friend, so she's a little bit sickened with that. And on the way there, she crashes into a biker, and he sort of helps her, and he's going to be her hero for the convention, because he reminds her of her fictional hero in her story, and they sort of hit it off while they're there. Very cute, very unbelievable, but very enjoyable. Definitely on the light side. Like I said, I read it in like a day. It's a very quick story. For a quick romance read, it wasn't terrible. I do think that it could have been bulked out a little bit more, and you would have actually had a really fantastic story with some depth to it, but that's not really what it was about. For what it was really enjoyable, and I gave it 3 out of 5. The next book that I read was a reread for me, and that's Before Sunrise by Diana Palmer. This was in my last book haul. I remember reading this when I was younger, stealing it from my mum and reading it. I was worried I wouldn't enjoy it as much as I remembered enjoying it, but I did still enjoy it. I remembered the story extremely well. I had no problems recalling the story at all. It's a very cheesy romance, and if you don't like that kind of thing, you'll hate this. It's definitely one of those stories, and Diana Palmer is definitely one of those authors that you're going to love or you're going to hate. I don't like all her books that I have read. I do have a few issues with some of the books that I've read, but this one I really, really enjoyed. It's about a young girl called Phoebe. When she graduates college, she's sort of hopeful that she helped sort of a criminal investigation. She's an anthropologist, and she sort of helped out with a case, and she kind of has a crush on one of the I think he was a prosecutor at the time. They worked together, and there was like a promise there, like there was a chemistry, and they were just going to be more, when suddenly he breaks off, and 3 years down the road they bump into each other again, and things go from there, and it was just really, really cute. It's not a story with a lot of depth, with a lot of substance. That's not what you're going into it for, but it was a good romance and a very quick read. I think I read this in like 2 or 3 days, because I was reading it sort of during the week, so I had work as well. If I'd read this over a weekend, it would have been done in 1.5, 2 days. But recommend it if you like romance. Definitely enjoyed this one. And then the last book that I read in February was The Girl You Left Behind by Jojo Moyes. I was very hesitant to pick this one up, but in February, I don't want to say I had a reading slump, but I picked up a couple of books and I read the first chapter and I wasn't feeling them, and I didn't know what to read, and it was actually starting to piss me off because I wanted to be reading, but I didn't know what I wanted to be reading. I would pick something up and think, okay, I'm reading this, and then I'd start to and think, no, I'm not reading this. It was annoying. What books did I pick up? I picked up a good 2 books that I just wasn't feeling, and I didn't want to carry on reading them knowing that it would probably affect my rating of them, and I didn't think that was fair. So I finally decided on The Girl You Left Behind because it kept drawing my eye, and I thought picking up another Jojo Moyes book was dangerous territory, but it just kept calling my name. So I finally picked it up, and I took my time with it. I think it took about a week to read, but I wasn't rushing myself. I was just enjoying reading it. And I really, really enjoyed this one, guys. I didn't enjoy it as much as Me Before You, but I knew going into it that it was highly unlikely that I would do. So it's not as if I had amazingly high expectations. I didn't put it on a pedestal because I knew that Me Before You was so spectacular to me that it was highly unlikely to meet that. And I think I enjoyed it all the more because of that. But it was still a fantastic story. I love Jojo Moyes writing. I think she has a very beautiful and almost a hard-hitting way of writing. There's one section here. It's set during occupied France in the First World War. But then it also goes forward in time to 2006, and the two stories are linked together. And there's one moment when the main character has lice, set in obviously the 1917 part of the story, and she's saying about her situation, and there's just one sentence where she put, "and the lice ate me." And it was just in that particular scene, in that moment, and where she was at, I found it very hard hitting, and I was just like, whoa. It made the historical part of the story very real and made it hit home, if you know what I mean. It was just very visual. You could see it, and it was just really, really wonderful. And I loved the modern day setting of it just as much. Basically, the historical part of it is about a girl called Sophie, a young woman, I should say. Her husband's off fighting in the war, and she's running sort of the family hotel that gets commandeered by Germans. And her husband is actually an artist, and one of the German commandants, I think it is very taken with her picture. And it goes from there. And then the modern day story is about a woman called Liv, who now owns that painting, and it's weaving the two stories together. And it was extremely well done. I thoroughly enjoyed this. This was definitely my favourite book of the month. While I wouldn't say it's as amazing as Me Before You, it's amazing in its... I just dropped a book. It's amazing in its own right, and it's very different to Me Before You, and I still loved this one. And I would have loved it even if I hadn't read Me Before You, if you know what I mean. 5 out of 5. Loved this one. I think this is a good one for people that say they don't like historical reads, because it's not just a historical read. It's sort of two timelines and bringing them together. And it was really, really well done. And it's definitely made me want to read more books set in the historical period of World War One. It's definitely sort of... I've read a couple of books set in that period, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely sort of made me more interested in maybe reading around that time period a little bit more. Because I know when I normally read historical, it's sort of Regency or Tudor period, not so much World War One. I did read The Bronze Horseman last year, which is sort of Russian, set in Russia, and that was also really good, and I really enjoyed that. So yeah, definitely recommend this one, guys. And if you've read any of these books, not just The Girl You Left Behind, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know if you enjoyed them, or if I've added any of these books to your to be read piles. Let me know in the comments down below. You guys know I love talking to you in the comments. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you all soon. Happy reading.